Hi, my name is Amanda Dunker, and I am a UI and UX designer. In today's video, I'll be going through my portfolio, describing you what I'm trying to display in each of my projects. To start off, we will be starting with the UI UX toy project. In this project, I worked with 8 other people to create a childlike game. The coding of the nodes focus on a live minimap displaying UI when a task is complete and switching in and out of UI mode only. I also used color theory and animations to create visual interest, and all the information of the files were transported through GitHub. In the first video, you see a tutorial menu. To create UI that was based on the theme of the game, I had to do a mix between stylized and vector. For the vectors, I used more of the straight to the point, and then when the stylized happened, that was more when the player was going to take attention to the UI itself. So for example, the tutorial itself is a vector based. When you get into tutorial, it actually will disable all movement until you are finished, and then it will delete the widget from the screen, and you can continue on with the game. In the next video, you have an example of how when you reach certain parts of the game, it will add a check off for the UI and basically saying, yeah, you've completed an objective, you can continue on, you are doing the right things. Keep scrolling down, you have an example of a stylized loading menu to, again, create interest for the players itself. And then I display the UI itself, the UI icons, and label them as vector or stylized. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you have the full video of the project itself. And I actually, for the buttons, I did a mix between stylized and vector because it was straight to the point, but also interactive with the user. For the color theme, I try to keep it very pastel and secondary and primary colors since it is meant for a child. I figured they don't know many colors, and it would be more relatable for them that way, and also, again, engage their interest. This game and the next game that I'm about to present really focused on diegetic UI. So for this one, there's a turn-based game for UX, and in this I worked with 2 other people to create a turn-based game, and it focuses on widget flow, interactivity of widgets, UI tracking of items, and freezing of cinematics. So to create a turn-based game, you have to be really focused on the systematic design of it all to make it function. So when you're looking at the turn-based game and it's going to initiate the fight, when you encounter a player, it's going to do a cinematic screen, it's going to take you into fight. The widgets deal damage to the player, but it also gives a turn to give the enemy to deal damage to you as well. It also takes away the innocent's heart once the enemy is defeated. Keep scrolling down, you have an inventory save system, basically just adding into your variables for certain items accordingly. And keep scrolling down, and you have a picture of the general layout, and essentially this is the color theory behind of what I was trying to do. I used the basics red and blue to determine between hostile and friendly. I used green for importance on the energy, and then I used pink for a sense of like childlike behavior, but also it matched the theme in the other colors. Again, the final video, but if you go to all the way to the bottom, it's a different version of a turn-based game, and essentially you are, instead of like just, running up on the character, it's going to run in an area where you don't see any characters. It'll randomly take you at a certain point, and once you've been running in there teleport you to another area and randomly display an amount of characters, and there's actually a character selection instead of just one enemy that you have to defeat. I also added in a run feature for that as well. Continuing on, we have a phone app UI UX, and essentially instead of focusing on more window-based or console-based games, I decided I want to take it to a different type of platform and try my hand at phone features. In this, it focuses on scroll menus, disabled input, gamer timers, point trackers, widget flow, inventory systems, and removal of UI icons. It also uses color theory, animations, and again, noise triggers to engage the players when they're interacting with the game. All of this was exported, rendered, and then sent out for resolution meant for phones, but specifically it was sent out for the Samsung 8. So when you scroll down, you see a typical scroll menu where if you when you release your finger, it'll keep scrolling for a little bit with velocity, and that's going to be their main screen. Keep scrolling down when I have different tabs for achievements, the store, and the settings. You cannot open another tab until you go home, push the home button. And keeps going down. This is the first game. It's very simple. It uses a timer, and basically at the end of the timer it's going to calculate your points, and if you didn't reach the minimum requirement of points that was required for the game, you lose. But when you spot the differences and you click on the icon, it will remove the widget, add points to your game, and move on to the next stage. Keep scrolling down, we have a different type of scroll for the game, and it's a snap scroll where essentially if you don't scroll far enough, it's going to leave you on the same scene, but if you scroll far enough, it'll snap you to the scroll. I wanted to use a snap scroll because I wanted the player to be very known that they were on one scene at a time and not be in between scenes to look around for their objects. In the next scene, I have another type of inventory system where essentially when you pick up things in the scene game, it's going to remove the icon from the game and then add it to your evidence founds list. Keep scrolling down and you have another timer function, but instead of just automatically ending the game at the end of the timer, it's actually going to disable all your input from the game behind it, blur out the background, and force an answer out of you, disabling you from looking at the other type of hints that could have helped you with the answer if you hadn't run out of time. Keep scrolling down, there's just pictures of the UI icons that I had made. And this is the color theory that I use for the game. Essentially, this is a puzzle catalog, and it's meant for increasing of brain activity. So I used blue for the base of the game for calmness, and then I used pink for attention to detail, purple for wisdom, green for growth, and lime for creativity. And each of the colors align to their own type of categories of games. So for example, for lime and creativity, that was going to be more based on color theory and spotting images based on design. Again, scroll down to the bottom and you have the full video of the app being used. Go back on out, and I have a different section for my technical communications if you are interested in that, and like my research process and how I break down things and problem solve for what I'm doing. And then I also added in an Adobe After Effects tab where it basically, this could be used for intros, marketing tools, just implicating UI into an aspect other than game. And for this, I have this as an example. It just uses animation text, simple rotation, and movement of icons. And then I also have this video that works with still images. But that is all of my presentation. If you have any other questions or you have any other interest in me, please click on the links in my bio and it will give you a lot more information of what is going on. Thank you!